Wait, why am I starting this like a generic YouTuber apology video? I mean, fuck it. It might as well be an apology because for the longest time, I just didn't understand Vinland Saga. I didn't get it. I'm sorry. Wait, how'd you know I was a My Hero fan? Season 1 of Vinland Saga was 24 episodes long, and I gotta say, half of it did not make sense to me, while the other half, well, you just have to watch the video to find out. Basically, this video is about my thoughts on the first season and how my opinion of it drastically changed as I kept on watching. Now, I'm not gonna go into detail about the plot, because if you've watched it, then you'd know how it goes. And if you haven't, go cry on your own time. But I do have to spoil the first 4 episodes because it basically sets up the whole story. So Vinland Saga is a show about revenge, where the main character Thorfinn vows to kill his father's murderer, the main antagonist of the show, Askeladd. The reason for his father's death is due to the fact that after years of being him, one day while on the battlefield, he realized that, wait, maybe I'm not him. And apparently desertion is a big no-no in Viking culture, so he's threatened by the king of Denmark to come back, or else. Or else what? Ah, psych bitch, you're dead anyway. And then his son goes, for me, Vinland Saga is the embodiment of, just wait bro, it gets better. You're getting bored from all the talking? It gets better. You're sick of all the needless killing? It gets better. It gets better. It fucking doesn't. The first 3 episodes are a lot of talking, and for a self-diagnosed ADHD-ridden f*** like myself, those two go together about as well as oil and water. I get that it's supposed to build up to something, and it's trying to get you to care about the characters, but personally, I felt like it was a bit draggy with characters that I just never cared for. Even more so knowing that this season was just a prologue, and that Thorfinn isn't even really the main focus of the show. Instead, it's more about Askeladd, but I'll talk more about that later on. The problem I had with Thorfinn, at least at the beginning, was that he never learned from his mistakes. Typically, shonens in anime have a pretty simple and straightforward character progression. They fight, they get beaten, and they learn something new about themselves so that they can better prepare for the next battle. Let me demonstrate. Enemy-kun! I can't believe you koroste my family. That's so not daijobu. Let's fight. Or yeah!
Every single person is my enemy.
Gah, I've lost, but I have learned a valuable lesson. Come on, friends, let's get out of here. And it's the same formula every single time. Shonen MCs are like a fucking mental punching bag, and every time they get beat up, they suddenly learn a new skill. But Thorfinn never does that. While others are having their eyes opened after a loss and are moving forward, from episode 7 up until the end of the season, Thorfinn doesn't really move forward at all. There's a glimpse of him being more emotional during episode 5 and 6, which I found to be enjoyable, but even that gets quickly washed away by episode 7. He's so intent on his revenge that he never truly realizes that Askeladd is simply using him for his own benefit. It's the only thing on his mind. He doesn't think about anything else, and it's like he's blind to what's happening around him. I'm gonna be honest, the only reason why I continued watching was because Netflix kept auto-playing the next episode, and my ass was too heavy to lift off of the couch. A lot of the times during earlier episodes, I found myself not rooting for anyone. There were no heroes to look up to. No one was likable enough for me to justify them wanting to succeed, or even making me feel distraught seeing them fail. It was all just happening in front of me, and I was just like, sure, you'd have a lot of fight scenes, but even those were honestly very meaningless and unnecessarily brutal. But for how much I felt that it was going nowhere, I'm thankful I kept on watching, because Season 1, Episode 14 became the turning point for me. Somehow, it all just clicked. I felt like such a fucking idiot when I realized that everything was supposed to be meaningless. Nothing makes sense because it's not supposed to. Now bear with me because I'm gonna go full-on English class up in this bitch. But I think the author wanted to show us quite a few times that all these fights, all these wars, there's no point to any of them. All this shit about being a warrior, dying honorably, and going to Valhalla, in the end, just comes off as an excuse for killing another human. Take all of that away, and you'll be left with nothing more than bloody clothes and PTSD. Vinland Saga is loosely based on 11th century Europe when the Danish invaded England. So Thorfinn, Leif Erikson, and Prince Canute, these are real people, and the things that happen around them are real life events that transpired in history. Except for this guy who cuts 5 people with an axe throw, but everything else, from the pillaging and plundering to, sadly, enslavement and mass killing. History has a way of presenting these violent acts as purely factual events. It's not trying to paint a picture in your head of who's right and who's wrong. It's just, hey, this shit happened, we as humans did this. And the same can be said about Vinland Saga. There was no sugarcoating, no smokes and mirrors, no fantastical elements in play. And I was almost taken aback by how raw everything actually was. It felt like I wasn't even watching an anime at that point, rather a retelling of history as we knew it. Once I started looking at it from this lens, I began to see Thorfinn, Askeladd, and whoever else not just as mere characters on a show, but as real humans. Humans that have flaws, greed, hatred, and anger, and all of a sudden, Thorfinn's actions start to make a lot more sense. Of course he's blind to his surroundings. Of course he wants to take revenge for his father's death. Bro's got as many holes in his body as motherfucking SpongeBob. People seem to clown on Thorfinn because he went against everything his father said not to do, but how else are you gonna react when you're literally 6 years old seeing your dad killed in front of you? Very quickly, I start to realize that Thorfinn's character is one-dimensional on purpose. He's so traumatized by the death of his father to the point that he can't even see a life beyond taking revenge, and it's very sad to see him turn out this way. Askeladd, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of Thorfinn. His character is so multi-layered and, like every creator on the platform says, is one of the best antagonists ever. He's smart, he's cunning, he's charming as hell, and everything he does is done with intent. It always seems like he's one step ahead. Even when it looks like he's on the brink of losing, that someone finally got the better of him, you just know subconsciously that this was part of his plan all along. He's not someone to look up to. Again, none of them are. And yet, I can't help but become invested in his story. Also, side note, and this is just for the people that watch the anime, if you haven't watched it, then you might want to go to this timestamp. This scene nearly brought me to fucking tears. I just thought I'd share it because I want to know if it was just me or if other people also felt the same way. Seeing Leif reunite with Thorfinn, even for that brief moment, was just so wholesome and emotional, I almost cried. Cause like, up until this point, right, Thorfinn was all alone, dealing with his father's death, basically living with the people that killed his father on a day-to-day basis, and seeing him finally interact with someone who's actually a familiar face from a time when he was still pure, it just hit home for me. Let me know in the comments if you thought so too. But anyway, so that's how I came to understand the point of Vinland Saga. If you can forgive me for my initial ignorance, then you should show it by hitting that subscribe button, liking this video, commenting your best,